I've definitely more than doubled what I made last year. And that's only going to grow next year because of the seeds that I've planted this year along the way.
All right then. So yeah, we got Damon. Damon's been in the program for all this year, I think, but we're only now catching up for the success story. So, Damon, let's hear a little bit about you, mate. Just take the floor for a minute and let us know who you are, what sort of stuff you do, and then we can go from there.
Cool. Yeah. So I run a one man video production company. I was working in house for a few years and decided to take the leap and go out on my own in January 23, and spent the first 6 months not making anything, and then sort of living hand to mouth for probably a year after that. My wife was covering the mortgage for us, so I was very much finding my feet in that stage and just trying to figure out exactly where I wanted to niche in. So traditionally, I came from the recreational fishing industry, so you know mainly fly fishing. But I decided I wanted to try some other bits and bobs. So I kind of my company now, over the course of the last sort of 2.5 years, has definitely niched into the outdoor videography space, and into sort of different industries that kind of link off that. So to give an example, my most recent client is a textile mill that makes wax cotton. So like things that and I've done field to fork and in things in and around food, and so things that all kind of revolve around traditional outdoor and heritage space, which is a wonderful thing to be in because that's the way I grew up. So it's really nice to do that. It makes my days very, very exciting. But yeah, so I joined the course in January, after about a year and a half of back and forth with you.
Yeah, because we had
Um,
a chat, I think, maybe a year prior to that, and
yeah,
you decided not to go for it, and then you eventually did. I
yeah.
think that's what happened. Yeah.
I think it was just waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger. I had to just really kind of hone in and find out a few things about myself and about where I wanted the company to go before I kind of jumped in. And you know, and I had so many like apprehensions before I did it, but it's actually my wife that talked me into it. So you've got my wife to thank for that. And
You've got
I
your wife to thank for that.
yeah, well, yeah, we both do. So and just and she comments now on the change in my confidence and my attitude towards the business. And that's two like two different things. So my attitude towards my own day-to-day work has primarily changed because of the community, because you're surrounded by people who are just kind of pulling each other up the whole time. Like I've put stuff into our group for feedback, and people have taken the time to send me really detailed stuff that's actually made a massive difference, and I've done some of what they've said, or I've tried different things, and ultimately it's had a huge impact. I've gone back to the client, and the client's really happy. And I've had two clients this year where there's been no feedback rounds because my feedback round came when I shared it in the group. And it's just that I've got some work out of someone in the group. We went and did a thing together, and so that was really cool. And you just see the collaboration from everybody and the support, and it's really cool. It's just nice to know ultimately that you're not alone in this industry, because unless you have a team around you, it's a very long. I can go for weeks without talking to people. Certainly before I joined this group. So and the other side of it is the confidence that the material gives you to go into discovery calls to change people's perspectives about who you are and what you can bring to their business. So what I mean by that is, by instead of just turning up and being the guy that says I can make you a really nice video and that's it, it's about strategy. Where is that video going to go? What part of the process and what part of the customer journey are we addressing? And what else can we do on that day? What other bits of content can we get that are going to help? And I think once people start to see that that's how you think about things, you start to speak their language. I've had lots of chats with people in marketing, and particularly on discovery calls, even business owners. And as soon as you start talking about sales, it's like this guy isn't the guy that we thought he was. He knows what we want to do and what we want to drive. So therefore, we're going to give him a bit more airtime and listen to him and listen to what he's got to say. And when it comes to like pitching, doing a pitch call, I've had a lot of success with being able to deep dive and show my understanding of the business and the industry. And it's a lot. I've had a couple of people actually say to me, "We chose you because you put more effort into your pitch deck than the other people." So I've won business
Mm.
just because I've shown a greater understanding about the industry of which I might potentially be working in. So um, yeah, man. I hope that makes sense. But
Yeah,
it's been a game changer, and I haven't in terms of numbers. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I've definitely more than doubled what I made last year, and that's only going to grow next year because of the seeds that I've planted this year along the way through like outreach and just keeping relationships going and just the odd message here and there, going to events to network. I've been to a few shows and things like that, and I've met people face to face and I've shaken their hands, and we've just had brief interactions about videos and things like that we might have been talking about over message, but because they've met me and they've seen my energy and what I can bring, that in itself has brought more business in. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally, man. I mean, there's lots of things to talk about there, like in as a reply. But like, firstly, I think um, when you're talking to the client about what they want, like you're not just coming in and saying, "I make this pretty video." Like that is a small part of the process. Like the why behind it is so important, and when you can really develop that why with them and really understand. Like at the moment, just this morning, I've just been putting a crew together for a production, like a personal, a passion project I'm doing. I'm getting all these applications through. Uh, and from my perspective, like I'm looking at just the first messages they're sending me, like what's a red flag, when people are legitimately competent, when people are interested for the right reasons, and like just when people are actually on board with the project, no matter what it is far more likely, the mission behind what you're doing, when that aligns and you're both aiming for the right target and you're aiming for the right finish line and to make the piece of work for the reasons you need to make it. When you can show that understanding from the word go, it makes such a difference. So yeah, that's why the program designed it the way it is to really you like use the creativity in you, and like a lot of creative people are quite good at understanding other people. It's quite the more emotional people. So use that to your advantage, even in sales. You know what I mean? It's so important. So, that's why the program is geared for creatives. It's for creatives because it's not just like you come in and you copy and paste this process. It's not highly technical. It's quite, as you've seen, we talk about things with a more that just one layer deeper than we normally would, because by understanding people like on an emotional level, and that's why it's such a success. And we have so many of these. I have so many of these chats with you guys, success stories chats, because it's just aligning for the right people and attracts creatives, and it's designed for creatives, so it always works out well when people do actually apply themselves. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of work, but they're not going to sit you and say it's an overnight thing. You do have to apply yourself, but yeah, man, it's you've definitely been a good example of that. And then what would you say, like what I'm curious to know is your own mindset and your view on yourself, like now in comparison to before, like how would you compare the two?
I would say I'll use the word confidence again. Just confidence in what my productions are worth to a company. Like I know that the stuff that I produce is of a certain standard, and that that can bring a lot of value to a company. And if you've got a company that is has a very prestigious sort of outlook on things, they don't want rubbish. Well, some of them do want rubbish videos, but they don't know that they need a premium video to go with their premium branding, and sometimes having that conversation is a good thing because sometimes the penny drops for people and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy's right. We don't, this is a big problem in our company. And what we're doing is we're trying to solve it by spending as little money as possible on this big problem,
Mm,
and being able to say to people, your, your mindset is that video is an expense, not an investment. Like you need to change that mindset because the future is video. Like 25% of, sorry, people spend on average 25% of their lives watching video feeds, and you need to be in there with good stuff. Can't just be in there with a, with a talking head to an iPhone. Sometimes that works, but the majority of the time it doesn't. And when you sort of dive into that with people, and and the power of running ads and talking about their sales funnels, and then you start asking them, so where in the customer journey do your customers mostly drop off? And they're like, oh, don't actually know that. I'm like, well, cool. You need to find that out because that's where you need to make a video. And like when you do that, people are just, I've had so many people, so many clients, and some of those clients it hasn't quite worked out with them, but you've made them think, oh, I really need to take this seriously. And once you can get people to take it seriously, then that you can, that there's a pathway that opens up then, and it's gotten me a lot of work, that kind of
Mm.
stuff. So just the confidence knowing that I can add so much value in the right places. It's not just about making a video; it's about addressing issues within their business.
Hmm.
And and then putting together a package to say this package will address X, Y, and Z in your business. And this is, how much it costs. If it's a one-off, this is it. If you want to do something on a retainer for 3 months, 6 months, then it'll work out better for you, and you get way more marketing material. And we can talk about your strategy. We can bring up a calendar and talk about how many offers you're going to run every month, how many reminders you're going to send, how much time you're going to spend on educating people so that you're an authority in your field, like all that kind of stuff just gets people thinking. And a lot of the
Mm.
companies I talk to don't think about that because in my line of work or niche, a, a lot of people are old school. And I don't really like to use that word, but it's a good word to describe. A lot of people in my industry are stuck in the 90s or the early 2000s, where it's print advertisement is like has been their world, and then all of a sudden you're talking to a 60-year-old who has no idea about how powerful video can be. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Doesn't always work because you get some really stubborn people, but at the same time, if you can make them think, then they might come back to you further down the line. So
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of sales are long-term sales, and those ones typically might might think they might not entirely sold on the value of video. So they know they need it, but they don't think it's that important, and they go and waste money on some shitty videographer who's not really thinking about the bigger picture, and not really being creative in a broader way, just being creative with shots and edits and stuff. Um, and then burnt a bit of money, didn't work, and then they probably come crawling back a little bit later on. We've seen that happen quite a few times, especially with older clients, like you mentioned. But I think one of the main things you've done, from my perspective, looking in, coaching you for a year, and I seen you part of the community for a year, is you have helped your client with their positioning because they've already got a good position through word of mouth, but it's not actually concrete in their marketing. And that is really where it matters, like you said, because everybody's looking at a screen all the time. So you've helped them with that, but in the only way you've been able to do that is by improving your own positioning. So the perceived, like, brand size is the biggest driver of advertising profit. That's what data tells us. So perceived brand size. If you can help your client with their perceived brand size, and whilst increasing your perceived brand size at the same time,
mm.
by your knowledge and your competence. And I mean, your portfolio speaks for itself. You've got among one of the best portfolios in the community. So that as well, it's just spearheaded everything into this you know better position you're in. So it's been good to see, man.
Yeah, I mean, this I definitely this year I've had my two biggest clients, and annoyingly, the biggest one I can't share any of the work yet because they haven't used it. So I've got to wait for them to use it in order to share the work. But I can privately share it with clients. But it that would be nice to have out in the world because it would just lift me up another level. Um,
It's coming.
yeah, yeah, it will. And my most recent client this that I shot with this week, they actually said to me part of the reason we got you in is because they're doing a collaboration video with one of their biggest clients who's like just gigantic. And they said, we want you to do that project with us, but we need to show them what you can do in terms of our industry. So, I'm really excited for what next year holds. I'm already booking in stuff for next year now, which is really cool. This time last year, I wasn't looking that far forward. Now I'm looking into, 6, 8 months out. Like what can I, I'm booking things in for March, April, May. So it's nice. It helps me sleep at night knowing that I've got work that's I'm not going to be like looking around for work in a few months' time, going like, where's it all coming from?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, mate, it's great to see that, 'cause I know it was a very different story when we first chatted. So, happy days. I think, in terms of success story video, you've said everything you need to say, to be honest, and I've asked the questions I want to ask, but I think lastly, I would say, what would you say to anyone who's on the fence about jumping in and thinking about it? Like, what would you say to them right now?
uh, I'd 100% do it, because even if you don't do any of the course material, just being in that group and being surrounded by all these creatives who have been on a journey, and they're so happy to share it with you, like, and you can see over the 9 months I've seen the progression in people in the group. um, I'm sure they have, and you go, that guy's great at like an interview, or she's amazing at fashion stuff. So so you build this network, and then that kind of ties into what we talk about with production, bloated production agencies, and you get these smaller creative hubs who just have a network of people, and maybe your crew size on the day is, two, three, four, whatever, but you're able to do as much, if not more, than what a massive production would do. And it's because everybody is just has a great work ethic, and we all push each other. And if I think spending the money to come in says a lot about how much you take yourself seriously and how much you want to invest in yourself, because once you're through the door, there's an abundance of stuff to go for. I mean, and you're always every single like week you're updating the course with new material, and you're going, guys, you need to get on this. So you're like the lookout guy of the industry. Great, I just need to go into Slack and go, oh, Reese says this is the most important thing that's going on this week, so I'll go and look into it. And just being aware of those things is worth its weight in gold. So yeah, I'd say jump in, because you will get something out of it. If you apply yourself, you'll get something out of it, and it'll pay for itself. But I mean, I mine paid for itself in a month. So, you know,
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go.
I was going to lastly ask, are you happy with your return on the investment? But you just said paid for yourself in a month. Like, and to be honest, for everybody who some people come in, like I'm not gonna lie, like a small handful of people come in and they think, right, I paid the money. Oh, this all my prayers are answered. No, no, no. You pay the money to come in, you get everything you need is there, and you get me there as well for accountability to guide you along the way. As long as you meet me halfway and show up. Some people just don't show up and then nothing changes. But for the most part, high majority of people come in and apply themselves and get stuck in, get involved. They get stuck into the material, into the processes. They adopt the new things in their business. They get involved in the community. They show up to calls. They get that feel that you've clearly had from the community, and they are coachable. So they're easy for me to, the progress gets made with actionable steps. They actually do them, get it done. And we're sat here. It's not an overnight thing, and you could have everything in the program in a list in front of you. And it doesn't mean you could chat GPT your way into doubling your income as you have this year. But you just won't without that real consistent developing the right habits. You may know what the habits are, but actually developing them, showing up and doing them is a different
Yeah.
story. So
It's
yeah, man,
practice.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's practice. It's practice. It's not
100%.
every discovery call you have is going to be a success, but it's being okay with that, and then the next one is better, and then the next one. My discovery call this morning that I've just had. You know, I listed the questions I wanted to ask, and I prepped for it, and I went in and I was really nice, and and it just went really well because I was just confident. If that was me this time last year, I would have been a bumbling wreck, because I was just like, I really need this work. I really need this work. But now it's at a point where I'm like, this is what I offer. It's either right for you or it's not. And if it's not right for you, that's absolutely fine. But I know I can bring so much more value to your business. So yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
so
happy days, mate. Thank you, Damon. Thanks for your time, mate. Great to chat to you. And I always say it's always nice. Like obviously I get these success stories booked in. We have a chat. I'll say, oh, I'll just ask you about your progress and how you view these things now when anything's happened. But outside of the questions and answers, there's always quality to hear about the difference that the program has made. So, mate, happy fucking days and long may it continue.
sweet. All right, bro. Nice one.
Nice one, mate. I'll
I'll
pop the
speak to you
recording
soon.
off now.